So once you've sourced your correct size needles and your wool, the first step would be to cast on. So to get started, you want to remove this, but maybe keep it for later so that you know which size needle you need and to know the care instructions of the wool. So on the back of these, they usually print how to wash something after you've made it. And to start the project, you'll want to find the end of the wool somewhere here in this ball, which is not always an easy task. There we are. So once you've found that, there are two different ways to start the project off, and this is known as casting on. So I'm going to show you two methods, and there are endless ways to do this, but I find that it helps to have a variety of methods just in case you don't seem to get a step in one of the methods, so you can always use the other method to cast on. And the very first step in casting on is the slip knot. So to make a slip knot, you'll want to take your wool like this and you'll want to wrap it around your fingers. So you've got the front and the back like this, and keep bringing it round. So you've got kind of a crossed over the front of your fingers, but a loop around the back like this. And here's the end of the wool, and the other end is going into the ball. And to make the slip knot, you'll want to pull this under here like this. So you've formed a loop, and you can see there's still the end, and this is the end that goes into the ball. And you want to grab that loop and let it off of your fingers. And if you hold the two ends of wool and pull the loop gently, it will form a kind of knot, and it will be quite loose. So if you pull on either end, you can adjust how big it is. And so that's your very first starting point. And so to start casting on, you place this onto a needle and tighten it up like this by pulling both ends, but not too tight. You want it to be able to move up and down a little bit, because otherwise you'll have trouble later on when you're trying to knit. So now you have this first knot. I'm going to show you one method of casting on. So you've got this loose knot, and I'm not sure how left-handers will do it, but if you're right-handed, this needle with the knot will be in your left hand, and you take the other needle in your right hand, and to start off, this is why the knot needs to be quite loose, is because you insert the needle through the bottom up to the top and behind. So like this, so come from the bottom, go through and behind the other needle. And you'll notice you've got all this wool down here, so you want to figure out which end is coming from the ball. So if you follow the ends, you'll see this one goes nowhere, so you don't want to be casting on with this because you'll run out of wool. You want to be casting on with the wool that is coming from the ball. So ignore this completely. And you've got your two needles in the loop you made in the slip knot. And to make your second stitch, you bring the wool around the back of both of the needles, and you then place it in the middle of them from left to right. And so you've got that. So to recap, you've taken the wool that's coming from your ball, and currently your slip knot is round both needles, and you go round the back from right to left, round the back of both needles, and then back in the middle from left to right. And you're left with this. And the knot might loosen up a bit, but if you pull on it like this, you can tighten it up. It's okay, we're learning at this stage, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit messy. And so you've done that, and to make another loop, you take your right hand needle and you bring it through the bottom whilst grabbing that yarn that you just wrapped round. And so now you can see you have a loop on each needle. So you want to take that new loop that you've made on your right needle and pass it over the top to your left needle. And so now, instead of just having your slip knot, you have two loops. And to tighten it up, you can pull on the ends like this, so it makes it a bit more neat. And so what you want to do is you want to repeat that until you get the number of stitches you want. So what this means is, imagine this is the end of your scarf. If you were to continue knitting with just these 2 stitches, you'd have a very, very thin line of knitting. So what we want to do is we want to build up maybe 10 as a good starting point. So you want to take your right needle and insert it from right to left underneath. And you want to take your what is called the working yarn, it's the yarn that's coming from the ball, and take it right to left underneath both, just like we did last time, and back through the middle, left to right. And then you want to pull the right needle down and through whilst grabbing this one new loop you've made. And to put it on the left needle, take it like this and place it on top. And then you pull the working yarn, so the yarn you've been working with, to tighten it up. And now instead of having 2, we have 3. So we want to do that 7 more times until we've got 10 stitches. So round through the middle, under here, and put it onto the left needle from the right. So now we have 4. I want to go through, round the back, around the middle, pull it down, and place that onto the left needle. Now we have 5, so we want 5 more of these. So sometimes you can get quite carried away with this, so it's always good to go back and count. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we need 1 more. And placing that over like that. So now what we have here is our cast on edge. So that's the very first step. So if you've gotten to this point, well done. And if you're an absolute beginner, that's great. But if you are finding my instructions quite hard to follow, it might be worth going on YouTube and looking up how to cast on in knitting, because I know that from watching a few different videos, people tend to do it differently, and you might understand it better when someone else explains it.